Good. How was your day?
It was good. Had a good day teaching.
Nice. A little chilly outside today, though. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'd like to give our listeners a little glimpse into who you are. This is our flagship show. You are one of our producers, so I figured I'd let everybody in the world know who the hell is Michelle Stewart, anyways. I'm just curious. So, fill the people in. Where were you born?
I was born in the Bronx. Actually, I was born in Manhattan, but I lived in the Bronx.
Yeah, where'd you grow up?
Pelham Parkway.
That's in the Bronx?
Yeah.
Okay.
181st Street.
And you lived there from when you were very, very little, too?
Well, I lived on 181st Street in a really bad section of the Bronx. It was not far from Arthur Avenue. And I lived there until I was 4 years old. And something bad happened in the building. My dad, who was a window cleaner, decided it was time to move to a different section of the Bronx. So after that, we moved to Pelham Parkway, which was a very nice neighborhood.
When did you start playing violin?
I started when I was 8 years old, but my father bought a piano for us when I was 7. And my dad played a little bit of piano. He's pretty bad at it, actually. But he wanted me to try to learn the piano, and he taught me a couple of things. He actually taught me how to read music before I even played an instrument. So he taught me how to read, and then I tried to play piano. It was not successful. And one day, I think it was 3rd grade, there was a fellow named Mr. Silverman who came to the school, and he played some gypsy music for an auditorium special. And I fell in love with the sound. I said, wow, this is something I really want to do.
The sound of?
The sound of the violin.
Oh,
I loved how he played this gypsy music, and it was so exciting to me. And so he was offering classes once a week at the school, after school. And so I went home, told my parents I really wanted to do this.
At 8 years old?
Yes.
Yeah.
And they said, okay. And once a week I would take these group lessons with Mr. Silverman. And he thought that I was pretty special. I mean, he liked the fact that I was learning all this music so quickly. And he said, you really should take private lessons because you're really beyond this class. So my parents took me once a week to take violin lessons. And sure enough, like in 6 months' time, I would practice like crazy. And as soon as I could learn 3 songs, my dad was so proud of me that he would take me to all the local restaurants / Italian social clubs. They were like
gangster hangouts.
We never said that, but yes, that's was definitely shady. So he would take me to these places, and I would play my 3 songs, which was Santa Lucia, O Sole Mia, and Turkey in the Straw.
Nice.
That was all. Yeah, I was like, okay. So I would stand in the corner with my 2 braids, my pigtails, and I would play the same 3 songs over and over and over. And my dad would get free drinks, and I would get free Coke, so much Coke that I was ready to explode from all the Cokes with cherries in them. And one Saturday afternoon, I think we would visit maybe 10 different places. So I would go from place to place to place, do the same thing, and get tips. And usually it was just $1 tip from all the folks in there.
Sure.
But there was one day where there was a serious poker game going on in the back room. And one of the guys, he won big. He was really happy. So he came to the front and he gave me a $10 bill.
Wow.
for the, I was pretty amazed.
No, at 8 years old, that's incredible.
And I gave him the $10 bill back because I thought he made a mistake.
Mm.
And he said, "No, kid, I made no mistake. Put that in your pocket. That's for you."
That's a great voice.
And then another fellow went to give me $1 tip, and he said, "No, you match this. You got to make it proper." So, like, every guy in the place gave me a $10 bill.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think I came home with over $100.
Wow.
Yeah.
At 8 years old.
I did, yes.
Wow.
And I was just like, wow, I cannot believe I made so much money. Dad, I really like doing this. Let's do this again. So I was hooked. That's I'm sorry to say, that's what really hooked me into it.
The loot. The money.
Yeah, but at 8, I think I was 9 years old at the time. And so by that time, I was just like, I never had that much money. So. Well,
do you think growing up in New York City had something to do with that? Do you think there was more of a, do you think that shaped the way you perceived playing music? Do you think that getting paid so early, having your father bring you to these places and just the immediate return, having this environment where there were people that was going to give you like $10? It wasn't
just the money, because I was entering competitions,
right,
and I was winning, and I was playing in front of the auditorium by myself on the stage for the whole.
What auditorium?
In school, I would just,
sure.
They would have a special auditorium, and I would just go there and play for everyone.
Right.
And I remember that first time I played for the entire school.
Wow.
I had this dress on. I was so nervous. My knees were knocking, actually knocking. And, I played the piece and everything went well, but...
Do you remember what the piece was?
And it was... No, I don't remember the piece. But I know I was just kind of like a nervous wreck, but the whole excitement of it was great.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, kids would come up to me and said, "Wow, that was amazing that you did that. And did you make your legs knock like that on purpose?" So I was like, holy moly. But anyway, that was great. I loved all the attention.
Right.
I loved when they would make a special announcement because Michelle was just selected for this award, blah, blah, blah. There was no one in my school that played an instrument.
Now, fast forwarding a little bit, you did wind up going to Performing Arts High School.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Well, okay, so after I studied with my teacher for about 4 years, he was a pretty old man. He had a heart attack. And he died, and for years I was just like, I have no teacher. I don't know who to go to. I don't know if I should pursue music. And I remembered how he wanted me to do that.
Did he introduce you to your next teacher, or did he
No,
usher
he
you into
died.
going? Right, but I mean, was there any overlap? How did you find your way into the performing arts?
I had a lot of pretty cruddy teachers after that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was playing in the New York Youth Symphony Orchestra in New York City on Sundays. So every Sunday my parents would take me to 59th Street and Broadway.
Now, what age were you when this was happening?
12, 13. That's where I first met David Allen Miller.
How about that?
Because David Allen Miller was, I think, 19 or 20, and he was the conductor of the orchestra.
In the New York City
New York
Youth
Youth
Orchestra?
Symphony Orchestra.
Wow.
Yeah. So
well, David Allen Miller, ladies and gentlemen, is of course the
conductor of Albany Symphony.
Albany Symphony,
yeah.
That's right.
So that's when I first met him.
How about that?
Yeah. So anyway, while I was there, I met another student, and I told her, I have a teacher, but this is, not working out. It's like the only teacher in the Bronx, other teacher it just wasn't good. And she said, you have to study with this woman. She's my teacher. She's great. Her name is Barbara Krakauer. And her son's the famous David Krakauer, klezmer clarinetist.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. So anyway, she said, go study with Barbara at Manus Pre-College.
And forgive me, but what age was this now?
13.
Oh, you're still at 13.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was 13.
Wow.
So, yeah, what happened? So, I went and I took an audition at Manus. And she said, yes, I want her. I will take her as a student. And she was the surrogate grandmother. She was an amazing woman. Absolutely great. She took me on, and she was the reason. My violin teacher in the Bronx, but also her. Mm-hmm. They were like, you've got to go to Performing Arts High School. This is the place for you.
Now, how old were you when you went to Performing Arts?
That's a high school.
Okay, so you're probably 15, 16, something like that. Now, that's also the famous school from Fame.
Right.
So that's a big deal. Was that going on at that time? Was there a buzz
about
that?
That was the year after Fame came out.
When you went there?
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of attention.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And everybody, we all wanted to be in that movie. But,
sure,
But was it like the movie? Yeah, a lot like it.
Really?
It was a small little school in a really crappy neighborhood in Times Square section, 46th Street.
Oh, and this is back in the dark 80s.
So, it was slimy. Yeah, it was bad. XXX everywhere, It was like, yeah. So, but it was great. Absolutely loved the school. Yeah, it was a pretty amazing experience.
Now, how long were you there for? Did you do the whole thing, like from 9th till 12th or whatever?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what'd you do after graduation?
Oh, well, wait a second. That's not totally true. So I spent 2 years at Performing Arts High School, and then it merged with Music and Art High School.
Okay.
So Performing Arts, Music and Art merged into this new building right across from Lincoln Center. Mm-hmm. And it's there now. It's called LaGuardia. So I was in the first year of LaGuardia High School.
Specialty in the arts and
music.
The same
thing. It was the same. So it was, Performing Arts and Music and Art combined.
Wow.
So, now we had, not only did we have the actors and the dancers and the musicians, but now they added all the art students. So it was just great. We loved it.
That sounds really exciting.
Yes. We will always be performing art students first.
Right.
Because we had a real pride about, we're from PA. And then the MA students were, we always felt like, well, we're a little more...
Oh, Performing Arts and Music and Arts.
Yeah. Sure. We always felt, loyal to being performing arts students. And LaGuardia was a great experience, too, because it was a brand new building and everything. And it was huge, but it was really huge compared to what Performing Arts was, mm-hmm. which was very cozy, intimate. All the teachers knew you by, we all knew each other. It was a real family. And it was different when we joined LaGuardia because it got huge.
Now, obviously early on you had a lot of talent. Everybody knew it. Everybody saw it. When you said earlier that when you initially got the bug for the attention and the loot and the bar and all that stuff, did that really solidify your drive to just tack it down like I am going to be a violinist for the rest of my life?
It was at that point when my first teacher died, and I really had to make a decision. What was I going to continue music? I got accepted into Bronx Science, and I got accepted into Performing Arts, and I didn't even bother with Music and Art. And I also got accepted into Hunter Pre-College. And I don't know if I made the right decision, but I went into, those were really great schools too. Hunter
Sure.
Pre-College and
Sure.
Bronx Science, but no, I think that was the right Bronx. I can't see myself as a Bronx Science student now, looking back on it. So yeah, I made the right choice.
Now, after graduation, did you go right into touring, or did you go on to a different college, or what did you do?
Well, okay. So Barbara Krakauer, that second teacher I had, was so responsible for, oh my gosh, she was just an amazing violin teacher, but also, like I said, she was the grandmother
Right.
that she was my mentor. So what she did was, for 3 summers, she knew my dad, who was a window cleaner at the World Trade Center. It's not a bad job, but he was also, you don't make a whole ton of money. So she wanted me to study in France for 3 summers. She paid for me for my plane to go study in France.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. So,
Now, what age was this at?
let's see, 14. I think it was like 14, 15, and 16.
So this is while you were in high school. In the summertime, you would go to France and study with whom?
With this amazing master, his name was Zeno Francescati.
Wow.
He was friends with Jascha Heifetz. He performed with Rostropovich, and I mean, all the big names of that time period. That's who he was playing with these guys. Zeno Francescati also has books and books of violin music that he put fingerings in. He was pretty famous for just, he was an amazing violinist, big time, big deal.
And he, what do you think you gleaned from
him?
From studying with him?
Well, what that was more of master classes. I would spend all these hours, and I spent hours, like 5 or 6 hours practicing. And I would learn all these pieces, these concertos, and I'd spend a summer working on just one concerto.
Right.
And at the end of the concerto, the end of the summer, I would play the concerto for Zeno Francescati, and he would just kind of give his critique about what more I needed to do, or how I could fix this, different section or whatever it was. So yeah, that was his job. It was kind of like a master class where you played and he just
was it
critiqued.
One-on-one, or
That was one-on-one, actually. Really? Yeah.
Wow.
He had this beautiful home that was a converted church, in this, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but Chéotat in France. And he had Paganini's violin.
Wow.
That was passed down to him. I don't know who gave it to him, but yeah, Paganini's violin. This guy, I think he was in his 80s, so he no longer played. He was retired. But he was the sweetest guy. He always had a little twinkle in his eyes. And he had 3 black labs that were always by his side. And his wife
That's a
was
really nice
also,
picture. That's a nice picture.
His wife was a violinist, Madame Francescati. That's what we called her, Madame. And she actually was harder to play for than he was. He always had like a smile on his face, and always.
And she was more domineering, like taskmaster.
She was like, there was not much that would impress her.
Really?
Yeah. So she would kind of just let you have it, and apparently, she was his biggest critic. She was the woman behind him that made him so great.
Do you think growing up in New York City equipped you for a life of being a musician? Do you think?
No, not in the Bronx. There was no one. It was just kind of luck.
I mean, more in maybe a spiritual sense, as opposed to growing up in kind of a suburban environment where like nowadays, where we drop the boy off to the thing, and there's a rotation of kids, and everybody goes to their class, and they have their little tutors.
No, I think what happened was,
do you think hitting the bricks early and having your father be like, play? Do you think that
no, my dad
toughened you up?
No.
Really?
I think what it was playing the violin was my escape from being in the Bronx.
And even at an early age, you knew this was your way out.
Yeah. How else would I go to France?
That's true.
I mean, who knows what my path would have been if it hadn't been for the violin. Maybe I would have gone to Bronx Science and I would have taken a completely different path. I have no idea, but I know that other people that I went to school with in the Bronx stayed in the Bronx. And that's not a bad thing, but...
just not your thing. All right, so you spend 3 seasons in a converted church in France.
No, actually, that was where that's where Zeno Francescati lived. We lived in a monastery.
Oh my.
In Aix-en-Provence.
And that's where he would tutor you?
No, he lived in his house. He was 80 years old. He wasn't going to leave his house. We had other violin teachers that would teach at the monastery. We had my teacher, Barbara Krakauer. We had Aurelia Spadero, who was like this crazy, wild French-Italian violin teacher. And somebody else, but I can't remember his name. Oh, yeah, what was his name? Leon Temerson. Yeah, so there was like these 3 master violin teachers, and...
along with a guy who...
along with him.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, after all that, you grow up, you're 8 years old, you start playing the violin, you go through the biggest specialty music school in Manhattan, and probably the most important one on the Eastern Seaboard at the time. You get back from France for the last time. You graduate from high school.
Okay, so after high school, then once again, Barbara Krakauer is like, I didn't want to go to college just yet.
I see.
I moved out of the house. I moved out of the Bronx. I wanted to live in Manhattan. So I worked at Tower Records in the classical department. And so I did that year. And I also was a nanny. I lived on 78th Street in Central Park West. So I lived in a really fabulous building, but I lived in the closet. And I mean, it was definitely the closet. So you walked into the lobby of this great building, and she had a storage room that had a window, but it didn't have a bathroom. So there was like an outdoor bathroom that all the everybody would use this bathroom.
Well, not outdoor, but you mean inside the building.
Yeah, it was
right,
in the building, sorry.
Sure.
Yeah,
It's
it was
okay.
like the lobby, but then you go past the lobby, and there was like the storage section of this grand building. And there was this bathroom shower,
There was a community bathroom
it
shower
was the
for everybody.
community bathroom shower for me and this other girl that was also a nanny. She played the cello. And all the doormen and elevator men. It was fabulous.
Fun. All right, now.
So anyway, so that year, I just decided I'm taking the year off. I don't know which college I'm going to go to. I knew I was going to go to college, but I needed a year off. So my teacher really didn't like that idea and insisted that I at least... She had a Japanese... She knew Dorothy DeLay. Dorothy DeLay was like the best violin teacher in New York City at that time. She was... Itzhak Perlman studied with her, and all these like famous people studied with Dorothy DeLay. And I don't think she was actually responsible for creating all these people. It was just that all these people gravitated to her because they knew that she could further their career. She had connections like up the, whatever. So, I ended up taking some lessons with her. And then I ended up studying with her assistant, which is what everyone at Juilliard did. Everyone studied with her assistant because she was just way too busy
To do it personally.
Teach everyone one-on-one every week.
Right.
So what she would do is once in a while, if you kind of almost had to get on a waiting list.
So this is at Juilliard. You're now enrolled in Juilliard.
So now I'm enrolled at Juilliard for that 1 year because my teacher was like, you have to go to college, blah, blah, blah. So so now I'm at Juilliard that year. And it was pretty damn expensive. But anyway, that's why I was like working night and day, doing the nanny thing, doing the Tower Records thing. I was exhausted, and playing, like I would play in the Bronx Symphony Orchestra and whatever pickup things came along.
Right.
So, what happened then? So I studied with this fabulous Japanese teacher who wanted me to transfer to Cincinnati.
Really?
Conservatory, yeah. Because he said, I could get you a full scholarship if you transfer. And I said, no, I don't want to go to Cincinnati, but...
You want to stay in New York City?
I wanted to stay in New York City. I had this love of Manhattan. So then I somehow met Ani Kavafian. Oh, I know, because I won this competition for the Lincoln Center Chamber Society. I was playing in a string quartet, and we won the competition. We got to play in Alice Tully Hall, right? And I met Ani Kavafian, and she said, well, if you ever want to study at Manhattan School of Music, just let me know. So I thought about it, and I contacted her, and I played for her, and then I took the audition, and I got a really great scholarship. So that...
To Manhattan School of Music.
To Manhattan School of Music. And that's what decided. I said, you know what, I'm killing myself trying to go to this other school. I'm going to go to Manhattan School of Music. It's practically free. So, yeah. That's what I ended up doing. And I did that. And then when I was playing in the National Orchestra Association, and you just start getting more and more jobs. I don't know how this happened, but someone got my name. So after I finished college, someone got my name and said, I'm looking for a violinist for the musical My Fair Lady. Would you like to do this? So I'm in my 20s. I think, early, like maybe 20. And I said, sure, I'm not doing anything. I need money. I'm living in New York City, and this is super expensive. It was guaranteed 8 months of work. So, going on tour. So I did it. And I toured all over the U.S. Maybe 40 different states.
Wow.
Yeah. And then after the 8 months, then they were like, wow, this is a real big success. They want this group to tour in Asia. And I said, yes, I am doing it. I will go. So then we spent another 4 months playing in Hong Kong, Singapore, Malaysia. Then I came back from that, and then I think it was right after that, I did some summer stock in, Long Island, Gateway. But then I met someone else who said, oh, would you like to be the violinist at the Westchester Broadway Theater? And I said, yeah, okay. So I did that for, I think, 10 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was guaranteed 8 shows a week.
8 shows a week?
Mm-hmm.
Good grief.
Yeah, you get real tired.
I can
especially
imagine.
If you played, we premiered the Phantom, the Maury Yeston Coppet Phantom. It's the different Phantom of the opera. But anyway, we premiered it. And we did that show for almost 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah. So I cannot imagine what it's like for some of these guys on Broadway to do a show for 18 years.
God.
Holy moly. Yeah. But 2 years of one show. Yeah.
Well, Michelle Stewart, that is a fascinating backstory. It's true. I'm honest. I'm sure there are some folks out there that were honest. They're curious. How the hell did she get where she is?
How
she
to
is?
get up here? That's a whole
Well,
other story.
that's a whole nother story. But your education background's fascinating. So thank you for having some time to sit down with us. Round Lake Radio, podcast number 1, and I appreciate your time. So thank you so much for coming by. Michelle Stewart, you are currently the owner of Amante
String quartet.
String quartet, right.
Yeah.
And
we do weddings and parties and
bat and bar mitzvahs and you name
everything. Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, you're very, very welcome.
Yeah.
Now, in closing, I do have one final question. What'd you have for breakfast?
Oh my gosh.
Come on.
Let's go.
Was it good?
Yeah.
Nice. All right. That concludes our inaugural Round Lake Radio broadcast. So thank you very, very much for coming by.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.